drink a keg of beer with Caitlyn Jenner anytime, any place. But this is blackface and it's wrong.
There you go.
Good darn point. Tyrus, for those of you who don't know, I had to look him up. I was wondering what that belt was over his shoulder. It's the funniest thing in the world. I say this with full respect and admiration for the athleticism and dedication of WWE wrestlers. I just think it's kind of funny that, you know, they offer a belt in what is scripted showmanship. But the skill and the talent and the dedication that goes into becoming and being and living as a professional wrestler, unbelievable. Everybody was joking when Ronda Rousey, retired from UFC. Oh, she's going into fake fighting in wrestling. People who say that don't appreciate what goes into it. Whether or not you're into the whole staged and orchestrated thing. Okay, setting all that aside, Tyrus makes a very good point. He might not be the first person to make the point, but he's making it, and he's making it as someone who's in the position. When he says offended, I don't think he means offended like boo-hoo. He means offended as in morally shocked, morally a moral affront. Let's just hear it again.
About the same thing twice.
Yeah.
Because I'm different.
While I open my black lemon tea, let's see what this tastes like. Oh boy.
I am offended.
Yeah.
That Dylan's on the can for one reason. He's not representing trans women. He's not. He's a performance actor.
And it's an interesting thing. He's a performance actor, as are WWE wrestlers, talented, skillful, ripped, athletic, but they are performance actors, and they are able to detect other performance actors. And it's something a lot of people have been saying for a while. Dylan Mulvaney is running a shtick all the way to the bank, and good for him. But who does he represent? Who is he representing? If he is representing women, women should be offended, as if women go hiking in heels. Women are ditzy idiots. Women shriek like little girls when they jump in cold water. Okay, never mind.
He's in woman face. That's like you trying to tell me it's cool if someone painted their face black and was put them on the face of the can of Bud Light and tell me, well, he's representing black. No, it's not. I am offended. Women should be offended. Men should be offended. These are our mothers that are being made fun of, like we're stupid. Women are stupid and dumb and bubbly. That's not a trans woman. That's not Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner lives her life as a woman and not at the expense of other women.
I like Tyrus. Some people are going to take issue with the fact that he's referring to Caitlyn as a she, when some people are going to say, once a biological male, always a biological male. The middle ground there is you refer to people by their name. Dispute over. So some people might say, Tyrus, you're caving to their game by calling Caitlyn Jenner a her. Set that aside. The principle is and has always been the same. Respecting the individual who makes an individual choice that affects no one but the individual, if that individual makes that decision in full awareness of fact and law. That has always been the discussion. And to the extent that that's the discussion, no one is telling so-called trans people what they can and cannot do with their own bodies. Where there becomes the issue is when the trans movement targets children who cannot consent to certain things by law. When the trans movement targets adults suffering from mental issues who, in the ordinary run of things, cannot consent to certain things. When I interviewed Tulip R. Ritchie, and he was a grown man when he went through the surgery. He was a grown man suffering from diagnosable mental illness, which would have, could have, and should have vitiated any consent that Ritchie could have given to having his penis surgically removed. So Caitlyn Jenner, a full-grown adult, maybe has always felt like this their entire life. Good for Caitlyn. Caitlyn can do what Caitlyn wants with Caitlyn's own body. But all the more so to the extent that Caitlyn understands the biological differences between men and women and does not push what is, in fact, biological oppression on biological females, because people who decide that they were born men but now want to become women get to go dominate those biological women because of biological advantages that they have because of birth. Tyrus is also making a very damn good point. What the hell is the difference between blackface and what is being done now under the guise of transgenderism? When a white person, even if they think that they want to associate with the history of what it means to be black, if a white person darkens their tone, even if it's for Halloween to reenact their idol of a soccer player, it's blackface, it's racism, it's cancel worthy, it is get the social media mob on you. What in the name of God's green earth is different than a man who says, well, I want to dress up as a woman, even if it is to mock the woman and what that man thinks it means to be a woman? It's the modern day minstrel show. When they had, when white people used to dress up to mock the most regressive stereotypes of what they thought it meant to be black. And they did it. It was a moral outrage, not necessarily at the time, although I suspect at the time everybody knew it was laughter at somebody, not laughter with somebody. But it certainly historically is now viewed that way. Why is this any different? I'll predict the future. In the future, this will not be viewed as any different. They're going to look back at Dylan Mulvaney talking about girlhood as if being a girl means hiking in heels, screaming at bugs, acting like a bumbling idiot in everything that you do. Well, that's what it means to be a girl. According to misogynists, we're going to look back at transgenderism as a movement and look at it in the exact same way we now look at minstrel shows of a century ago, in the exact same way we look at blackface today. That's one prediction. This is I can cheat with the predictions and make two which are not diametrically opposed, but which are alternative. That'll either happen, or trans racism is going to be the next thing. If you identify as black, if you identify as Asian, instead of it being a diagnosable mental disorder, as it has been, for decades in the DSM-5, we call it gender dysphoria, racial dysphoria. Call it racial dysphoria. I'm a short Semitic, Hebrew boy who identifies as Asian. So now, if I'm 12 years old and I say I identify as Asian, mom and dad, you better go start giving me surgery. There is no difference. There is no difference. Conceptually, legally, ideologically, medically, there is no difference. And we're also going to get to the point where we're going to look back at gender-affirming care in the exact same way we look back at lobotomies of 50 years ago. We're going to look back on it in the exact same way because we're going to understand what they've discovered in England with that. I forget what that transgender hospital was in England. That who are they largely targeting and largely exploiting? Autistic children, victims of sexual abuse. Instead of treating them for their underlying mental issues, mental illnesses, and I say that with respect, love, and compassion, and not in the slightest bit of mockery, instead of treating them for their underlying mental illnesses, instead of treating them for their underlying trauma, mutilate their bodies. People should look back at lobotomies and the whole lobotomy movement. And the guy who devised lobotomies won a Nobel Peace Prize, if I'm not mistaken, in the late 40s. Tavistock, thank you. We will look back on it that way because it doesn't make sense. It can't make sense. And the fact that it has become the latest destabilizing social contagion of the day does not mean it makes sense. And life can only be lived forwards, but it can only be understood backwards. Damn it, I screwed that expression up. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Kierkegaard.